I almost got banished to the basement. I almost got locked out of the video, but I had to beg my work wife Christine to let me back in. I will behave myself. So, thank you so much for being a part of the experience here. Again, a huge shout out to our ASL interpreters who are doing a fantastic job, Donna and also Kathy. Also, huge shout out to our captioner, Tara. Thank you so much, Tara, for doing the captioning. My next guest, he really doesn't need any introduction. You know him. I know him. I live vicariously through him as he travels. We're talking about the great John Morris. John, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm well, Paul. So happy to be here with you today.
Hey, great to see you again, my friend. What have you been up to lately? What are some of the cool things you've been traveling? Plane, automobile. What you been doing, my friend?
During the pandemic, really this year, I've taken a couple of trips to Las Vegas, which is, of course, a lot of fun. Now it's slammed. There are a lot of people there. So I would tend to recommend that people stay away unless they've been vaccinated. Which fortunately I have. I got my first vaccine dose a few weeks ago,
Nice.
and I'm getting the second one next week. So hopefully, or at least I'm planning for that to open the world to myself again.
There you go. I got mine. When was it? Thursday, and I get my other one in about 3 weeks. So yeah, I'm looking forward to some form of normalcy out there. And something tells me, John, once you get that final shot in your arm, you're gonna be just making up for lost time.
I definitely hope so. I have some tickets to baseball games in a couple weeks, and so we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to getting back out there and seeing the world and getting some more miles under my belt.
I thought you were gonna say you had two tickets to paradise. So I was like, you take me with you if you have two tickets to paradise. All right, I'm going with you, my friend. Hey, so one of the things that always pops up with the questions for you, John, and I remember last time we got together, someone asked the same question, and you travel a lot. I know it's so hard to narrow down, but what was your favorite trip?
Actually, I changed my background before this call to one of my favorite photos that I took from that best trip. If I move a little bit here, you
Wow.
can see there's a lion in the background, and I went on a safari in Kenya, a wheelchair accessible safari vehicle with a ramp out the back, and securement straps. And I just had the most wonderful time. It's the best trip of my life, hands down. I normally before I took this trip, when people ask this question, I said, "Oh, it's hard to say. I don't know. I can't really decide on one place." But in this case, now I can say, without question, that safari in Kenya, best trip of my life, and I don't really have a whole lot of hope that anything is ever going to top it.
I love it. You know what? I've been trying to bribe my wife to go with me on a safari, and she's like, no, no, no. But John, since it's wheelchair accessible, maybe I can get her to, to do that. Because that's always been my dream trip, going to safari.
It was mine as well. One of my dream trips, and I just had no idea how incredible it would be to be out on the, just out in the savannah there, out in the wild, and spotting these incredible creatures, and then sometimes having the opportunity to get really close to them, and other times they were far off in the distance, but really an incredible experience, that I want to go again. So maybe we could go on that safari together.
Hey, let's do it now, John. You got to be honest with me. How many times did the Lion King opening pop in your mind when you were out there?
Well, quite a few, I have to
I
say.
knew it. I knew it.
It yeah, it's such an amazing trip, and I was listening to all sorts of Africa themed tunes on my flight to Kenya, and I think it far exceeded my expectations, which is not typically the case when we travel, because the photos that we see in the magazines are always so much more beautiful than the actual destination, or what we're seeing with our eyes. But in this case, I think it exceeded all of my expectations.
Now, was the classic by Toto on your list?
No, oh, yes, yes, it was. Yes, it was.
You take a land to take me away. See, I love that song. See, John, I gotta see. I'm getting all like messed up now because I want to go there. So let me get back to the matter at hand. John, here's some more questions from your fans out there. What if you can't transfer from a wheelchair to a plane seat? You stay
Yeah,
home then, right?
no, no, not at all. In fact, I started traveling long before I should have. And what I mean by that is that my first flight was 6 weeks after, 5 weeks, 6 weeks after they amputated my legs. And so they were still bandaged up. Um, and I took that trip, and I was so weak. I had basically, prior to this trip, had been bedridden for a year. And it was a struggle just to move from the bed into my wheelchair. I needed help with that. um, I was entirely dependent on help from other people, and so um, I've gotten stronger and more capable since that time. And so it's interesting to think back, to that time, and so that I can, better identify with people who are in that circumstances for a longer period of time. And anyway, how I got onto that first flight um, was the staff. We I took my wheelchair down to the door of the airplane, so I rolled down the jet bridge up to the aircraft, and there's a small little wheelchair that goes down the aisle of the airplane. And the airline staff assisted me, transferred me, they lifted me into that aisle chair for my wheelchair, and then into the seat on the airplane. And so that support allowed me to take that first trip and really set the stage for everything that I've done since.
I love it. I remember when I did my first plane trip with the aisle chair. I'm like 6'6", so I had one butt cheek on this side, one butt cheek on the other side, and trying to get down there. It was really kind of a challenge for me, but something tells me that as we travel more, we'll teach them more things to do and how to handle like big guys like me. So I love that you share that with us.
Yeah, and I don't want people to think that, it's comfortable. Getting in the aisle chair is very uncomfortable. But the whole idea is that, at least in my mind, it's a few minutes of discomfort, and then you're on the plane and on your way to hopefully an incredible travel experience.
John, I remember when I traveled, they just automatically bumped me up into first class. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, it has. It depends. I'd say now, when planes, or maybe 3 months ago when planes were really empty, that would be a lot easier. I wouldn't count on that.
Yeah.
So if you think you'll be more comfortable in first class, and you can cover the cost of that, then certainly I recommend doing that. It's a much more comfortable way to fly. You have more space, and on some planes you can even lay down, and so that's incredible. But always, it doesn't hurt to ask at the airport. So certainly recommend doing that. If you're facing a long flight in economy class, definitely ask.
Yes. Like John said, definitely ask. Because one time I thought I was gonna get bumped up in the first class. They were like, "No, dude, you gotta go back in the back." So it was a really interesting ride. I've had this happen to me before, John, where I flown to Florida and they broke my wheelchair. So a question that someone asked is, what happens if an airline breaks your wheelchair?
So, if you're flying on a U.S. carrier or any carrier within the United States on flights to or from the United States, the airline is wholly responsible for the cost of either repairing the wheelchair or replacing it, and so their liability is up to the full value of the wheelchair. I've had a couple of occasions over the years where my wheelchair has actually been destroyed. It got dropped out of a cargo hold and, handed back to me in pieces. And in those instances, the airline set me up with a loaner wheelchair. So, it's not a wheelchair that's as great or as nice as mine, but it's something to, allow me to either continue the journey or go back home or something. And then they work on getting the wheelchair replaced or repaired. And in those cases, generally, I'd say expect to hopefully have the repairs within a week or 2 weeks. Meanwhile, you'll have the loaner wheelchair if you need it. I've had repairs done for minor issues same day. In fact, one interesting, a few years ago, I was working with the New York Times and a reporter at the New York Times on a story about Greyhound. And so I was meeting one of their photographers to go take some photos on a Greyhound bus. And I forget exactly where I was. I think I might have been in DC, but I had to go to Tampa. And so what we decided is that I was going to fly down to a city south of Tampa. And I forget what that city is right now. But anyway, I got on a Greyhound bus there. That was the plan. But on the way, the airline damaged my wheelchair. And it was pretty bad. I mean, the chair still rolled and was working, but it needed the repairs. And I was frustrated because I was just about to get photographed to be in the New York Times. And anyway, this was probably the most amazing repair experience I've had. They sent out a repair technician to meet me at the Greyhound bus station. So I got the repair same day. Now that's a best case scenario, obviously. But I try to tell people not to worry so much about the wheelchair damage. It'll certainly be an inconvenience if it happens. And right now, it's typically about 1.5% of the time wheelchairs are damaged based on the government data that's published. But I would just encourage people not to worry too much about that. If something does go wrong, and God forbid they do, seriously damage your wheelchair, you're gonna get it repaired good as new.
Awesome. Another question, John. How do you manage the tiny bathrooms on airplanes for long flights?
So this is an issue that I care really deeply about, and I think what a lot of people don't know is that on a lot of those longer flights, say if you're traveling to Paris or London or somewhere abroad, those airplanes have accessible lavatories. And I put that in quotes because um, they're larger than a standard airplane lavatory. But they're still small. And so if you need assistance in transferring, it's difficult to get two people in these lavatories. And, if one of you is a little bit bigger, that makes it even harder. So, but I travel internationally a lot, and I use these airplane lavatories pretty frequently. I mean, if I'm on an international flight, and maybe I forgot to mention this at the top of the show here, but I think I'm going to Brazil at the end of next month, and if I go, I'm going to be on one of these larger airplanes that has an accessible lavatory, and I'm probably going to be using it because it's a 9 or 10 hour flight, and I have to go to the bathroom. But Yeah, essentially, the process for me in getting there is getting on the onboard aisle chair. The flight attendants push me to the bathroom, and there are a few different designs, and I would really of these accessible lavatories. Some of them allow you to park the onboard aisle chair directly alongside the toilet for a lateral transfer. And then others, you've got to sort of point it at an angle or transfer from the front of the toilet. It really depends. And so I would encourage people to check out the article on that on my website. Search airplane lavatories. I've written about them a lot, and I've got photos of the different bathroom designs. Uh, but I just want to warn people, if you're flying from New York to California, you're not going to have access to one of these lavatories. So this is on the large airplanes with dual aisles that are flying across the Atlantic or down to South America or to Asia, Africa. These are the long haul routes.
All right, John, another question. Can a couple who both use chairs travel on Greyhound together, or is there just one accessible spot?
So there are two spots actually, and that's mandated by federal law. I've ridden Greyhound a lot, and one time that I rode Greyhound, there was another wheelchair user on the bus, and I just thought that was so incredible. It happens to me now and again if I'm riding a city bus somewhere and another wheelchair user comes on, and I'm like, yeah, we're represented here. But to see it on a Greyhound bus, another wheelchair user, was incredible. In fact, I remember that trip well. I was going from Orlando to Tampa, and anyway, we both rode. I in my power wheelchair, and she in her manual wheelchair, and we were both strapped down to the floor right next to each other.
All right. Here's another one. How can people in other countries advocate for better accessibility on airlines?
Oh, that's a good one, and important, because in the United States, we have a strong law for accessibility in air travel. It's called the Air Carrier Access Act, and it should be improved. There's an amendments bill that's just been published by Senator Illinois senator in the wheelchair. What is her?
Oh, Tammy
Uh,
Duckworth. Senator
Tammy
Duckworth.
Duckworth and Jim Langevin in the U.S. House of Representatives, and in the House. And so we're trying to get the bills to be stronger and the laws on the books here to guarantee even more access than is already the case. But in other countries, some of the things that we take for granted, like if we need a wheelchair to go through the airport, in here in the U.S. and well, in most countries that's free. But in some countries, some airlines, you have to pay a fee to get wheelchair assistance to the gate.
Wow.
Um, Here in the U.S., if I want to take my power wheelchair on an airplane, I can do that. In other countries, there might be a weight limit that says, the wheelchair can't weigh more than 60 pounds. And if you have a power wheelchair like me, that obviously won't fly. So um, there are a lot of things that we take for granted, I think, here in the US, and other people looking at some of the access laws and rights that disabled people have here, um, would like to see that in their own countries. And the best thing that I can recommend, well, it's really twofold: generating awareness, um, and gaining allies. And so those are allies in the community if you're just, organizing there, but then also trying to find allies in the government, in the transportation department, in the legislature, leadership, the staff people who work for government officials. Um, I guess I would need to, I could better tailor that recommendation if there's a particular country that someone is referring to, just because, I am following what's going on, specifically with air travel, which is something I care deeply about around the world. So if that person is watching, send me an email, mailbag@wheelchairtravel.org, and I'd love to hear from you.
John, we have time for maybe one or one and a half more questions. So this one right here, how do you protect yourself from being a target by criminals when you're traveling alone with a disability?
Mm. I've thought about this quite a bit. I wish I could say that I take some type of precaution, but I really haven't encountered. I've been fortunate not to have encountered any violent criminals. Of course, I'm a guy, and so I understand that that will have something to do with it as well. I'm less of a target than a woman might be. Um, but I try to just be thoughtful about where I'm going, particularly at nighttime. And I would really encourage people to research the destination that they're going to. I remember at one time I was in Cape Town, South Africa, and they warned me. They said, the crime rate here is very high, and we encourage you not to go out past, darkness. And so when I was out, in the evening time, I took a taxi. I didn't ride public transit or roll down the sidewalk. And so just being thoughtful about ways that you can reduce risk, I think, is very important.
Awesome. And John, people want to know how they can reach out to you. I know you gave your information earlier. You mind giving that out again, please, in closing?
Yeah, website is wheelchairtravel.org. And from there, you can access my social media. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And if you need to send an email, mailbag@wheelchairtravel.org. And I really look forward to hearing from you. And I, hope we'll all be getting back to traveling as close to normal as possible soon.
And John, I just want to make a correction. You said something. You said that you are going to Brazil at the end of the month. You're supposed to say we
Next month.
are. You're supposed to say we are going. You and I are
Oh,
going. You forgot to say that, John. But hey, go ahead, my friend. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I was just going to say, you're welcome to join. It's just a few months ago, there was a sale on airfare. There was an error that was sold to from the United States to Brazil, business class, for $500.
Wow.
And I saw that, and I just had to book it. And I was like, I hope they don't cancel this. I hope I'll be able to get my vaccine. And now that I have gotten the vaccine, and we'll finish that line of treatment with the second dose next week, I'm feeling pretty confident. Obviously, I'm still going to take all of the precautions that I've been taking traveling prior to getting the vaccine. But I'm looking forward to a great trip.
And John, you make sure you take pictures and tag me in those pictures too. Say, look, Paul, I'm here. So I'll live vicariously through you. Okay.
All right. Well, I'm not going to try to rub it in, but I will share some photos.
Hey, I appreciate it, John. Always great catching up with you, my friend. Please stay safe, stay well, and have fun out there traveling, my friend.
Awesome. Have a good one.